So look at the space again. Hutchinson on this side in the Bruno Fernandes position, either side of the central midfield players. But what do managers want? They want this man to go in here. As it comes across, see where the space is. Two central midfield players have dived in. Ruben Amorim mentioned Johnny Evans after the game. He wants him to go in there and go and press and get after the opposition 10. So we run it on from there, and this is where Ipswich get their first real chance of the game. But again, the space either side of the central midfield players. You actually see, look at Amorim there, he's not happy at all. Frustrated, but it's early days for Manchester United getting used to a new system. This, again, is what he will like, but he still had to pass on instructions. So you see, Ipswich now, they play it back. Look at Casemiro. The manager wants him to lock on there, but look, he doesn't feel comfortable. He's checking over his shoulder. That's where I normally am. I'm a hold midfield player. I don't feel comfortable going higher. Look at him now. Look at him, look. He looks at the bench. Look at the manager. Look at Ruben Amorim here. Imploring Casemiro, go higher. Be aggressive. This is what I want. Look at him, go. So you go in here. Look, he's still not quite sure, but the manager's told him, go lock onto the central midfield player. You and Eriksen go. And then what happens? This is where it works what he wants. Johnny Evans is pushed in here. Mazraoui is pushed in there on that play. This is what he wants. We can see this early on, so they've got it wrong on the first clip, but this is them getting it right. Casemiro doesn't feel comfortable. Eriksen probably doesn't feel comfortable in that position. But this, in these early stages, these are the things we can see what Ruben Amorim wants. And as the ball now comes here, there's Johnny Evans, there's your left-sided centre-back in your back three.
Probably wondering what he's doing up there.
Exactly, and there's Casemiro, you're holding central midfield player there. But you can see in that clip, that is what Ruben Amorim wants in terms of the team. You could see how frustrated he was on the first clip and the difference on the second clip.
Ruben Amorim, after the match, had some very interesting things to say. I thought it was a really quite an insightful and an honest answer to a question about the overall assessment of his team. And he said the guys were thinking too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He saw them thinking too much. And so for you, you think about a new manager coming in, and it's a new formation, and there is a lot there's so many adjustments. How long do you think it's going to take for this Manchester United team to not be thinking so much and for it to be a little bit more automatic under Ruben Amorim's tactics?
There's two facets to the answer to that question. Going into this match, they had 4 days of training. Mm-hmm. So 4 days of training, when you're used to playing a back four, to go to a back three. And for players that most of them, I thought this was a litmus test for a lot of these players that probably will not be part of this project as you move forward. Johnny Evans, he cannot be, not will not be. He cannot be part of this project.
I mean, you're not wrong. If you watch that game, you were like, how is this guy on the left?
No. And when you look, if you're Christian Eriksen, if you're Casemiro, they've been serviceable in the last couple weeks under Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Yep.
But now comes the biggest litmus test, because one of those two, you're playing for your Manchester United career in this formation. If you're Casemiro and you cannot track back defensively, you're no good to the team, because Manu Ugarte, he is the first choice defensive midfielder, and he's played with Ruben Amorim, so there's a bit of trust there. Kobe Manu, he's just gotten back healthy. He's missed, 7 games, or almost 7 weeks, with injury to his hamstring, so he's getting back in the fold. So the competition within this group is going to be high, but if you're a player that you're on the fringes, or you're a player that isn't one of those players that you think of, okay, in an ideal 11, or you weren't on that list right there, your days are numbered, because you have to produce quality. What I loved about what he said after the match was not just the overthinking. He said the decision-making of the players of this group, it has to change. The management of the game, what you do when the game is against you, having the audacity to play out of the back, having the courage to be comfortable under pressure with the ball, those are things that players struggled with under Erik ten Hag, and they'll be found out under this manager.
Is that an indictment on Erik ten Hag?
No.
Decision-making?
I think the indictment is still on the players. Some of these players just aren't good enough.
Gary, what were your impressions? Were they positive after that first game?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think that we were all intrigued before the game to see how it would go. I think when I saw the team sheet, I worried a little bit about the lack of pace. I think that obviously I wasn't quite sure how they were going to set up, to be honest with you, to begin with, when you looked at the actual 11. But you saw him on the pitch, you saw Mazraoui, De Ligt and Evans as a back three and Casemiro and Eriksen in midfield, you know full well that five that are at the heart of the team there basically haven't got the pace or the energy, and they've got obviously quite a bit of age between them. So I was worried about how they were going to keep compact and pushing up the pitch and keep that high energy game. And United started well, obviously, but they fell back in a little bit to sort of how they've been recently in the previous months. As the game went on, I thought Ipswich were the better team in the first half, and I think that he obviously used the players that he'd been working with most in the training that hadn't been away with internationals, and that obviously reflected the fact that the team he picked. But I think moving forward, you'll see a lot stronger performance level when obviously the players who are, I think, probably higher energy and younger come into that 11.
Before the manager came in, Gary, you've been speaking about Manchester United going to a back three. You think it would have helped them under Erik ten Hag. Who do you think would be the winners in the squad in terms of changing to this system?
I mean, I think Luke Shaw, if he can keep fit, because I think that ideally you play sort of that left centre-back can play sort of to, can go out, that left centre-back and right centre-back have got to be able to go out and play right back and left back, I think. So obviously we saw Mazraoui do it yesterday. I think Ugarte will be a winner, not just because I think in midfield, just because he's played for him before. I think it's how you fit in the likes of Rashford, Garnacho, Bruno Fernandes. Because one thing you know with that system, you've got two wing-backs, you've got a back three, and you've got a two in front. It's then that three, which obviously the two that he likes to play sort of come inside a little bit. So you're wondering about sort of Ahmad played obviously wide yesterday, but Garnacho, Rashford, Højlund, Xerxes, Fernandes, that's the conundrum of those attacking positions where I can't quite see what's going to happen. I think Mainu and Ugarte, for me, play in midfield. I think they're absolute certs. I think Luke Shaw's a certainty to play. I think he would be anyway in a back four or a back three. I think ultimately you'll end up with Yoro as the right centre-back. I think just because of that energy and that pace. So I think the winners will be the ones who I think are adaptable, who can maybe sort of, if you like, interchange from a 3 to a 4. Because when we played with the back five with Terry Venables or a back three with Glenn Hoddle, the outer fullback, the outer centre-backs do have to be able to go out wide. So I think the ones who are more flexible and agile are going to be the winners.
He's made it very clear, Gary. I think he said it to you as well. There is only one way, and that is his new way. Is there going to be some short-term pain?
I mean, I think that will have hit him straight away when he saw that performance. I mean, at the end of the game, we saw the stat that was put on us in the post-match from Sky, where it showed that United had 102k, which I think was obviously pretty low. The lack of energy. I mean, he said to me in the interview on Thursday that the one thing that he wants to change straight away is the athleticism of this team and the athleticism of the squad. I don't think he was just referring there to getting them fitter. I think he was actually referring to actually them just running more. I spoke to him about his Sporting Lisbon team and the fact that they were just a high-energy team. They were all absolute sort of dogs when they were out of possession. And you look at that Manchester United team, they haven't got good standards out of possession, whether that's in the last 6 months or whether that's in the last 2 years. They just don't have the level of work that the teams in the league seem to have. And that yesterday was apparent again. So I think there is a real issue that's obviously Ruben Amorim at the end of that game will know a lot more than he would have done before the game in respect of just looking at the lack of energy in that team compared to what he would ordinarily have expected back in Portugal with the team he managed.
Looking at Marcus Rashford, he decided to go with him right through the middle, and the debate was, could he play in one of those number 10 positions? Do you think right now, because of the fact he brought Højlund on for him, it is actually one or the other? Because you're talking about your guy who's probably your highest paid player there in Marcus Rashford, and also a young striker who's still trying to find his way at Manchester United, but is also coming for a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, look, I look back at the fact that most of the Manchester United managers in the last 5, 6, 7 years have played Marcus Rashford as a left-sided striker, left-sided forward. That's where I think he's best, just purely because there's two things. I think to play centre-forward in a football team on your own, you have to be, I think, intelligent and understand where to be and sort of when to be there. And I don't think Marcus plays like that. I think he's more instinctive. And you also have to be really good at holding the ball up and be able to bring people into play, which I don't think is his strength either. His strength is always when he's got space in front of him or he's running through on that left side. So again, I'm not quite sure how that fits. And I think you're right. We saw yesterday, after 65 minutes, even though obviously Marcus had scored a goal, that he brought on Xerxes and Højlund. Obviously, trying to get both of them in. But you're right. I think it'll be one or the other. I don't think you'll be able to get. I don't think you'll be able to get both of them in the team unless he plays Marcus a bit wider on the left. He could do that, but I think Garnacho probably is more suited to coming into pockets. Marcus is not a player who comes into pockets, so I think that will be a concern to play him on that left-sided sort of, if you like, position that that Ruben Amorim likes.
Gary, I know it's only one game, but were there any big red flags for you in terms of individual performances or the way this system was working?
I mean, red flags. The red flags that were there yesterday would have been there probably for the last few months and the last season and a half of a team that are very difficult to actually like watching. And I say that with respect because I genuinely do believe what Ruben Amorim said at the end of the game. No football player goes out onto the pitch and wants to lose or not, doesn't want to win or work hard or do well. They don't want criticism. But you watch them play, even yesterday in a new system, and you look at Ipswich, who are very near the bottom of the league, who look more organised, better coached. They look like they've got more appetite for the game, more enthusiasm. And that's a constant and has been a constant, not just obviously on Sunday, but a constant for the last year and a half, 2 years, 3 years. So we've got to a situation where these group of players, to be honest with you, have created a pattern for themselves and have become what they are. And not just a red flag yesterday, because the same things that we've seen in the last 6 to 8 months, 10 months, we saw yesterday with Ruben Amorim being the manager. He saw it as well. I think he obviously knew how big a job this was. I think he'll have recognised it yesterday. It will get better in the next few weeks because, like you say, that back five that he picked, and I'm not talking about the actual wing backs here, I'm talking about the 3 at the back and the 2 in midfield, that will become more energetic and better, the sort of personnel, when the personnel changes occur. But there's a long way to go. I think Roy yesterday called Manchester United an average team, and that's being kind.
Yeah, that did seem a bit damaging, didn't it? We were looking at the fixtures before as well, Gary. It seems like they're playing every 3 days pretty much all the way through till January. Do you think in an ideal world Ruben Amorim would like to draw a curtain in front of his team so no one can actually see what's going on in the short term?
Yeah, he did an interview after the game where he talked about, I've got to try and change this straight away. There's no point in me waiting until I get a free period and I can work with them for a couple of weeks. He's got games every 3 days. He's trying to basically coach, get to know a team, bring a brand new system into play whilst he's playing every 3 days. And obviously, we all know how difficult that is. So the manager at this moment in time and the coach, it isn't like what happened with Ange Postecoglou when he had the pre-season at Spurs and he had time to be able to work with them. It's very different. We have got to go easy on, I think, Ruben Amorim in this next few months because he's trying to really change so much and get to know the players and get to know the club that we're going to see, I think, turmoil, pain, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to see some of the same results emerging that we've seen in the last 18 months that have cost Erik ten Hag his job. But we've just got to go with it. I think United fans, I'd like to think that when the best 11 are out there that United have got in that new system, that they will be really competitive with every team in the league. And I think that could happen in a few weeks. But I think we're going to see some sort of bad results along the way because yesterday, they seemed to run out of energy. I mean, he had to make 4 or 5 changes in that game yesterday to try and get the energy back up. Because obviously what he was watching out on the pitch would have seen them beaten against Ipswich, I think, if he'd have left it as it was.
Gary, what does success look like in the next few months for Manchester United, or even from now to the end of the season?
Success would be to see a team that's really got an enthusiasm, an energy, a confidence and a fighting spirit in there